At 6:11 in the morning, you open your eyes, without an alarm pulling you out of sleep. The house is quiet. You drift into the kitchen, brew a simple coffee, and settle by the window as daylight slowly gathers. Your phone gives a single vibration. $37 have landed in your account while you were asleep. No shift worked, no extra gig, no hours exchanged. Just ownership paying out quietly in the background. For a moment, your mind slips back to who you were 5 years earlier. The version of you who needed 3 alarms just to function, who dreaded Mondays before they even arrived, who never believed mornings like this could exist. The truth is, nothing dramatic changed overnight. You didn't strike it rich. You crossed a threshold, a number that quietly handles your rent, your food, your fuel, and the life you once had to constantly trade your time for. It all started with $12,000 at age 27. 2 years of setting things aside, skipping upgrades, keeping the old car running, staying in on weekends while others went out. Eventually, that money just sat there, waiting. Most people would have spent it on something temporary, a trip, a luxury item, something flashy. Instead, you opened a brokerage app and placed it into a plain dividend ETF. Nothing exciting, just steady and unglamorous. Its ticker was VBRX. At a 3.8% yield, that first investment produced about $456 a year. Not life-changing on its own, but enough to quietly cover small monthly bills like streaming services, music subscriptions, and your phone. It doesn't feel dramatic. In fact, you almost laugh at how small it seems. But you don't. Because this is the first time money showed up in your life without you trading hours for it. Everything before this had a cost in time. Long workdays, traffic-filled commutes, meetings you barely needed to attend. This was different. This money arrived while you were asleep. At lunch one day, a coworker notices your screen and the ETF sitting there. He chuckles and shrugs it off, saying $456 a year barely counts for anything, maybe a casual night out. You don't argue. You just close the laptop. He'll likely spend what he earns this week on something new, something that won't last long. You choose a different path. When the next dividend arrives, you don't touch it, you reinvest it. The share count nudges upward by a fraction, barely noticeable, but it changes everything internally. That's the moment you feel it shift, quietly, permanently. Years pass. At 29, your account has grown to about $62,000 in the same unremarkable fund. Most of it came from your income, but a growing portion is simply money compounding itself because you left it alone. Now it generates roughly $2,356 every year, enough to silently cover essentials, electricity, internet, and the occasional weekend away without worry. One Sunday morning, sitting at your kitchen table, you run the numbers again. It clicks in a new way. Every time a switch flips, every time your fridge hums, every time your phone charges, someone else is effectively footing the bill. Not you. The portfolio. You keep that realization to yourself. Later that weekend, your sister gets engaged. The family gathers at a steakhouse filled with noise, laughter, and clinking glasses. At the table, your cousin orders a bottle of wine that alone costs more than your monthly dividend once did. He lifts his glass to toast. He casually mentions that he has just signed a lease on a brand new BMW. The effect is instant. Cheers break out, glasses rise, and applause ripples around the table like it was rehearsed. You respond with a small nod and quietly ask for water. When the steak is placed in front of you, you eat at an easy pace, smiling at the appropriate moments, fully present in the celebration, while keeping everything else carefully sealed away behind your expression. On the drive back, city lights smear across the windshield in long reflections. Your girlfriend keeps turning toward you between stretches of silence. Eventually, she asks if something is bothering you, noting how unusually quiet you've been. You shrug it off, saying it's just a lot on your mind. What you don't say is that your thoughts are running numbers without pause. A $900 monthly lease, nearly $11,000 a year, vanishing into image and machinery, and a deeper internal ledger where a salary once at $62,000 used to sit at $62,000, now quietly compounding in the background and producing roughly $2,356 a year on its own. You let the moment pass without adding anything else. Your hand remains in hers at the red light. Inside, something subtle shifts. Not emotional, not dramatic, just a quiet recognition that your trajectory may not be matching the world rushing past you. At 32, you're holding what once felt like a milestone, $100,000 sitting in your accounts. In earlier years, that number sounded like a rival itself, the kind of threshold your father once described as life-changing. Now it behaves differently. It doesn't rewrite your life. It quietly generates about $4,000 a year. That $4,000 covers small, ordinary expenses, groceries, coffee, the little things that keep days moving. Month after month, your life is partially sustained by capital you never actually touch. That idea follows you into a Saturday trip to Whole Foods. Between polished aisles and bright packaging, everything in your cart feels slightly unreal, as if ownership itself has become more abstract than it used to be. You let out a small, unexpected laugh near the produce section. A woman beside you is carefully choosing fruit, unaware that an entire financial calculation is unfolding quietly in the same space. That night, your phone lights up. A message from an old college friend. Someone like Ethan, someone who hasn't appeared in your life for years. He's energized, practically vibrating through text, telling you he's discovered a stock that pays 12% monthly. He does the math immediately. 12% on $100,000 equals $12,000 a year, and he insists it could easily double or even triple your returns. You open your laptop. The chart doesn't match the story. The yield exists on paper, but the price is already eroded by nearly 40% over 2 years. The high payout isn't strength. It's a mask over deterioration. You can see the trajectory almost instantly. Dividends likely to be cut, further price declines, and the income collapsing as the structure behind it weakens. You close the laptop. Your reply is short, just a caution to be careful. He answers with a laughing emoji and still repeats the same $12,000 projection. 6 months pass, and the pattern resolves exactly as expected. The dividend is cut in half, the stock slides another 30%, and the conversation between you two quietly fades along with it. You remain committed to a slower, less exciting ETF approach. The $4,000 continues arriving without drama or headlines. Saturdays stay familiar, wandering grocery aisles with that same quiet sense of detachment, watching life move at its usual pace. By now, the lesson feels permanent. Anything advertising double-digit yields is rarely generosity. It's risk, dressed up as opportunity. 12% is not a gift. It's a signal. Meanwhile, the steady 4% approach endures, while louder strategies come and go. By 35, your portfolio has grown to roughly $250,000. Few people around you are aware of it. It now produces around $12,000 a year, enough to quietly cover your car payment, insurance, and fuel without drawing attention. That realization lands unexpectedly one morning in traffic. In the lane beside you, a man is yelling into his phone, visibly stressed, driving a new Tesla that feels completely out of sync with his state of mind. He never looks your way. You don't respond. You just observe the contrast. Your own car, a paid-off 2019 Toyota, moves forward steadily, while everything around it feels louder than necessary. The Bluetooth connection is still solid. The seats haven't changed. Nothing about the vehicle is failing you. It simply exists, paid off and steady. Meanwhile, the other driver's situation is very different. That Tesla beside you is effectively on a leash of $800 monthly installments, stretching years into the future. Later that evening, you open your dividend account again. The balance has climbed once more, just like it always does. There's a quiet consistency to it now, a pattern you've come to expect rather than hope for. A memory surfaces, your mother's words when you were 16. She told you, "The wealthiest people I know are the ones driving the least expensive cars." Back then, it sounded like nonsense. Now it feels like a principle you can actually see in motion. Somewhere around the point where your investments crossed $250,000, everything stopped being abstract. The numbers started transforming into real-world outcomes. Fuel in the tank, repairs avoided, freedom you can actually use. While many people around 35 are locked into monthly car payments, your situation quietly reversed itself. The vehicle in your life no longer drains money. It returns stability. You pull into your driveway that night and don't rush to get out. You just sit there for a moment, letting the stillness settle. The urgency you once lived with has faded so gradually you barely noticed it disappearing. At 38, your life feels less like a sprint and more like something you can actually steer. $500,000 changes something deeper than lifestyle. It alters your baseline sense of security. At roughly $20,000 a year in generated returns, it covers essentials, rent in many places across America, or even a fully paid-off home in others, plus groceries, utilities, fuel, the basic framework of living. This is the well-known 4% guideline, long used in financial planning circles as a conservative benchmark. In your case, it's been adjusted to 3.8% in practice. Either way, the idea is the same. The floor has appeared. At $500,000 invested, walking away from work tomorrow wouldn't mean collapse. It wouldn't mean luxury either, but it would mean survival without panic. You realize this late on a Friday, the clock nearing 4:47 p.m., when your manager steps into your space looking stressed and asks you to stay late. Old habits would have made you agree instantly. This time, there's a pause. Just a few seconds, but enough to feel the shift. For the first time, you feel optional. You still say yes, but it's no longer automatic, it's chosen. At 9 p.m., you cross the empty parking lot and settle into your driver's seat again before heading home. Your thoughts drift back to your younger self at 26, the version of you who first opened a brokerage account and who once got laughed at by a coworker after mentioning a $456 annual gain. That same coworker is still there, still leasing an SUV, still carrying a second mortgage, still wondering where the money disappears to each month. You drive home quietly, eat something simple, and go to bed around 11. For once, you don't check your dividend account before sleeping. You don't need reassurance anymore. The math continues on its own. $500,000 doesn't make you untouchable. It doesn't even make life luxurious. But it does something far more subtle. It gives you the ability to refuse. And that single word carries more weight than most people ever realize. You are 41 now. $1 million sits behind everything, even though nothing around you looks different. The same apartment, the same car, the same reflection in the mirror. But the number is real. It now produces around $40,000 a year, an income that can replace a full-time salary indefinitely. On a quiet Tuesday night, sitting at your kitchen table, you do something you haven't done in over a decade and a half. You open a tax calculator and type in $40,000. Qualified dividends, single filer, tax year 2026. You press enter and wait. A single result appears on the screen. 0. You double-check it because it almost feels wrong. It isn't. Anything below $62,000 in qualified dividend income falls into a bracket where the IRS effectively takes nothing. Meanwhile, people around you working traditional jobs watch nearly a third of their paycheck vanish before it even reaches their bank account. You won't. You lean back slowly. There's no grin, no rush of celebration, just stillness. Your mind drifts to all those years spent chasing overtime shifts, stacking taxable income, watching almost 30% disappear instantly to taxes before you could even touch it. That version of money felt different. This one doesn't. This $40,000 stream belongs entirely to you. The next morning at work, nothing about the building changes. Your manager is talking through quarterly targets, markers squeaking, slides changing. You nod when expected, jot things down, ask the right questions. On the surface, you're fully there. In reality, almost no one in the room understands what's already shifted for you. You could walk out next Monday, and your life would continue without disruption. The colleague beside you, earning a similar salary, will likely retire with nearly $800,000 less than what your path will produce. Yet none of that is visible in the fluorescent light of the office. At lunch, you step outside alone. A bench, sunlight, a simple homemade sandwich. The world keeps rushing past in every direction. $1 million doesn't buy extravagance. It buys quiet. The kind of quiet where, sitting alone on a Tuesday night, you finally realize no one holds leverage over your choices anymore. Not an employer, not institutions, not your past self. Now you're 44, with $1.5 million working in your favor. It produces about $60,000 each year, roughly what an average retiree spends. That lifestyle is covered endlessly without selling a single holding. The core stays untouched. Everything still compounds in the background. One morning, coffee in hand, you read a headline from a Northwestern Mutual 2026 planning study. It says Americans believe they need around $1.46 million to retire comfortably. You read it again, slower this time. You're already beyond that line. Outside your kitchen window, traffic builds. People hurry into cars, into meetings, into obligations that feel urgent but familiar. You used to be one of them, caught in that current without questioning it. Your thoughts drift back to age 26, a version of you with barely $12,000 invested, who pressed a reinvest button for the first time without fully understanding what it would become. The same version who once heard laughter at a coworker's reaction to a $456 dividend, too small to matter then, unstoppable in hindsight. That dividend kept compounding. So did you. The system behaved exactly as it always does. It rewards patience, ignores noise, and compounds consistency. You sit back down, open your laptop, and compose a single message. No hesitation builds in your chest. No panic rises. It's calm in the same way it once was years ago when $37 quietly landed in your account overnight while you slept. You hit send. No drama follows it. No emotional collapse or rush of relief. Just clarity. Because the number people chase their entire lives, you already reached, and it came down to one decision made 15 years earlier and never broken since, letting time do the work. While others spent years exchanging hours for paychecks, you built a system where money learned to work for you instead. And now, your mornings belong entirely to you.